Hope you all enjoy the workshop and consider it to be a good investment of your time. That's what's most important. Allow to start with a brief introduction of AlmaScience. We are a sustainable tech applied research organization focused on the development of smart and green solutions on paper and cellulose and other sustainable materials, targeting a wide range of applications from health and environmental diagnosis to food quality control, or within the scope of the workshop today, cost-effective connected packaging solutions that can be integrated into holistic track and trace systems for further engagement with partners, clients, consumers, and along the supply chain. As we are going to show you in the last part of the workshop, we do this based on a business-driven open innovation approach, which welcomes every new company and every new R&D partner that wishes to join our co-creation ecosystem, adding value to it. As it was the recent cases, for instance, of Superboc Group, NOS, Sensei Data, or Zor, and we hope will be the case of some of the other companies that are present here today. But let me take this opportunity to emphasize the importance of our associates in our setup and growth process. From Nova University and Nova School of Science and Technology, Raiz, and from Nova Portugal on the R&D side, supporting us with background knowledge, IP, and other research resources. And on the business side, the Municipality of Almada, Firmo, Clara Saúde, the Navigator Company, and INCM, with business-driven challenges and, of course, some funding. And speaking of INCM, and on the day of the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the merger of already two centennial companies, the Portuguese Mint and the National Printing House, Nuno Gonçalves and Joyce Miranda are opening the workshop by sharing with us the Unicode, a comprehensive solution for track and trace and brand protection, already being used by several public and private customers in Portugal and abroad, showing us our INCM's motto, the tradition to innovate is not just words, but a true commitment with innovation and value creation. And then we are lucky to have Goneri Tuco from Digimark. Have I got that right? Yeah, thank you. The multinational company specialized, among other solutions, on brand integrity and protection, showing us how the Digimark brand integrity solution can help you to ensure that your products are real and how to get new insights from the supply chain, amongst other stuff. And after a well-established multinational company, we are very happy to be able to count with the presence of a startup, a Portuguese startup, and with the presence of Diogo Cunha from Wine Visible. And they are establishing themselves as a relevant player in the field of printed electronic displays, another important piece of the puzzle for a fully connected track and trace system. And last presentation, last but not the least, Yanni Engel, our business development VP, is going to share with you the vision of AlmaScience for the future of track and trace, that we call going beyond QR codes into paper and cellulose-based print, connect sensors and tags to monitor product condition and identity throughout the supply chain, from production to recycling. And so we hope that these complementary approaches may be of use for your companies, either in the short term, connecting with INCM, Digimark, or Invisible and applying them today, or just helping to ignite new ideas for possible future applications. And in that case, be sure to count with AlmaScience as a partner along the road. Finally, one last word to thank Ordem dos Engenheiros, the Portuguese Engineers Professional Association, for hosting us today and further continue to foster high standards in such a critical area of knowledge. And now let's start. Nuno and Joyce, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everyone. My name is Nuno Gonçalves. I'm presenting the Unicode, an innovative solution for track and trace and brand protection that we have in INCM. So a brief words about INCM. As Carlos already said some words, we have more than 50 years of history in mint production, 250 years as history as official printing office. INCM has always valued the security of people and products, and the motto is INCM, the value of security. So in terms of high security printing, we produce travel documents, tax stamps, bank cards, ID documents, authentication and brand protection stamps, just to mention a few of the products that INCM has, and that are the focus for the innovation in track and trace and brand protection. So just to start the motivation of our work, counterfeit and illegal trade is a big problem in world trade and particularly in European Union. A few facts: imports of counterfeits and pirated goods in European Union, it's more than 100 billion euros in 2019, which represents around almost 6% of total EU imports. Counterfeit of pirated goods and represents around 2.5% of all total world trade. So we can see that it's important, very important, to track and trace products and to have security elements for the transactions and for the trade. These are some of the most counterfeit areas and products like smartphones, pesticides and agrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, spirits and wine, recorded music, jewelry and watches, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to introduce the motivation for the Unicode. And briefly, Unicode is a patented technology by INCM that creates stamps, visual identities, and labels that create a bind between physical and clonable and digital elements. This is probably the most important characteristic and feature of the Unicode, is that Unicode links between physical world and digital world. The protection of the products cannot be only on the digital world, only on the physical world. So we need to link these two worlds, and of course, Unicode is the solution that links the digital elements with the physical elements. So we create unique identities for products, one object, one identity. It is easy, secure, and accurate to validate using smartphones, which are ubiquitous devices, and with no forensic analysis of stamps are needed. It is easy and cheap to print and suitable for large-scale production. So the Unicode is the outcome of an innovation project with University of Coimbra for the design of security elements able to be validated by mobile ubiquitous devices. So in terms of the main characteristics, it has several levels of security. It's security digital and physical level, as I said, completely configurable and adaptable to any product, stamp, or product. And of course, it can be read by using smartphones, which allow authorities and also citizens and consumers to track and trace the products, and authorities to check the validity and authenticity of the products. I will skip this slide. And mainly Unicode is built over three main bricks: printed graphic codes that can encode a message, and holographic encodes a unique and irreproducible message, so using holograms, and glitter inks that encodes a unique and irreproducible message as well. So these are the main elements of the Unicode, and the solutions can mix these elements and have the three of them, or maybe two of them, or even just one of them. But the idea is that we can mix these elements and build a solution on top of these bricks. We can add several digital layers of security and even more physical layers of security. So in terms of the first brick, the pixel-based graphic code, the code is built starting from a base image. We can start the code with a base image, which in bidimensional codes can be a matrix of black and white pixels. We encode color pixels by substituting the pattern of 3 by 3 pixels. This is a more technical information, but the idea is that we can build information and in bidimensional codes that starts from a base image, not only these the squared matrix are as data matrix or, for instance, as QR codes. This is an example of a dictionary. We can associate the pattern of pixels to alphanumeric letters. And here we encode and decode, we encode in the pipeline and also the decode pipeline. We show that how we can build an image that is encoding a message. This is some examples. We can also use, instead of pixels, we can also use icons. And icons are much more aesthetic, and they have bigger relation to the design, so they can be built in the design of the stamps. This is an example of, for instance, images that are using icons to encode information. And then we get to the second brick. The second brick are holograms. Holograms are very known security elements. For decades, everyone knows what are holograms and the use of holograms in several products. And holograms can have this particularity that they can be seen and identified by people. But usually persons cannot verify the integrity of the holograms. So we built a system that can validate the holograms. So we can validate the authenticity of the holograms. And when we validate the authenticity of the holograms, we can associate some unique information that is encoded in the holograms. We can associate this information with the unique information that is written in the message of the graphic code. So we can link these two elements. We can encode a unique identifier because each hologram is unique. We can register the unique elements of the hologram. We can, for instance, register the specific cut of the hologram, because when we produce holograms in the stamps, these holograms will vary from one stamp to the other stamp, or from one document to the other document. So we can mix these two elements, graphic code and holographic codes, in this validation that can be made offline with extremely high level of security and reliability. The offline validation of the stamps is also one very important characteristics of the Unicode, because we don't need to build expensive databases, or we don't need to have connection to an internet to validate the element, which is a very interesting information about the hologram. This is some image or a small video of the hologram. We can see that the hologram varies a lot. The image of the hologram varies a lot, and varies with the illumination conditions, with the camera condition, position, light sources, color position, and so on. And this is a very difficult security element to validate, and our solution is probably the most advanced solution in the world to validate holograms, and to not only identify one hologram against the other holograms. So instead, so we can validate the holograms in two, actually in three ways. Distinguish between hologram A and hologram B from one product to the other product. We can also check the integrity of the material, so we can see if the material is holographic or is a fake material. And we can also check the unique position of the hologram and unique characteristics of the hologram that, for instance, will distinguish between bottle 1 and bottle 2. So we can distinguish and we can use the holograms in three ways. The third brick is the mixture with glitter particles. We can mix glitter particles in the ink. We can print, and when we print with ink that is mixed with glitter particles, the glitters will produce a unique and irreproducible random pattern. And this pattern can be registered in the production line and then associated to the product. And then we can track and trace this pattern through all the life of the product, because we capture this pattern of the glitters, and then we associate to the product, and then we can validate it with a smartphone as well. And of course, with an offline smartphone, because we can encode this information that is in the pattern, we can encode this information in the message that is in the graphic code. So we have these geometrical features and physical features like brightness, orientation, and some other features. And smartphones can do it easily. So the idea is that this is a small animation to show how we can use, for instance, these glitter inks in the products. We can associate and we can read this the glitter inks, and then we can register, save this information. Of course, we do that not when the glitters are already in the bottle, for instance, but in the production line. And of course, a consumer in the store can, or an authority, of course, could read the glitters, extract the information from the glitters, and then it will search this information in the database. We can use in the database, or we can do this offline in the mobile phone, and then the integrity of the product is guaranteed or is checked. Just to sum up, we can use wallpaper holograms and ink with glitter particles to produce a unique pattern. The whole process is cheap and practical to reproduce, which gives the solution the security, needs no adaptation, and allows traceability, extremely high level of security and easiness in the validation. So it can be used in offline or online modes. Okay, so I will pass to Joyce.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Nuno. And thank you very much for having us here. And thank you very much to comply with your mission, to innovate and to explore new technologies. For us, INCM, it's a privilege to understand what we can do better for our clients and for our mission in terms of the work we deliver to the citizens, to the state, to the goods, and also to the end consumer. My name is Joyce Miranda. I'm from the commercial perspective, let's say, in terms of anti-counterfeit solutions. And não, acho que eu preciso de ajuda para fazer isto.
can you switch to the presentation because I never.
It's the same presentation, please. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay.
I used it.
Thanks. My mission here is to tell a little bit how we work, how we did the application of this technology in the market. Okay. Our focus usually tend to be the client pains. So we use an approach that tends to be tailor-made, custom-made to the client needs. What we try to do is to work from an issue to a predefined, determined outcome. Okay, and from our conversation with the clients, we understand that the main needs of the clients are three different priorities according to the maturity, according to the products, and according to their actual problems. The first problem is to make the product unique. It's important to start by saying that this bottle is not any bottle, is the bottle 1, 2, 3. And to do this, we need some kind of a technology to ensure that we can identify unequivocally, I don't know if that word exists, that product. And this is the first point, and this is the point that also helps to identify fake products and other kind of misleading information to the consumer. The second part of this path is to understand is to make the product to talk with us. Okay, it should be possible to interact with the product, or at least to know its way along the way. I'm not saying about temperature or control of other topics. We will address that later on. For now, with the Unicode, we are able to understand where it was made, how it was produced, in what factory, and production unit, and the path through the wholesaler to the retail until the end customer. And this is a privilege for most of the clients and for most of the industries. The third type of needs is the marketing purpose. Of course, when you do the previous ones, you are able to understand the power that you have when you know that this client has this bottle. Okay, and you can interact with this client in the unprecedented way. Okay, knowing that when did you open this bottle, how did you find the tasting, where did you buy it, and you can interact with that client in a way that most of the producers never did. Okay, because you have several supply chain, intense supply chain way. Okay. Sorry for my voice; it doesn't stay very well in terms of the microphone. But trust me, it's better in person, okay? So for the authentication, we tend to recommend a multi-factor validation because we are a mint company and we are a national printer. We are used to printing documents, and in the past already, also we made money, cash, notes actually. So we are very expertise in terms of security printing, and we use these features to produce innovative products. Nuno talked about a wine tag. This is another example in the same way. Usually you have a human verifiable element, then you have a destructive subtract or not, depending on the client needs. And you are able to identify the unique product by this number, classic, no innovation here, and with the graphic code between below the eagle. Okay, and this is possible because you can use logical validation and cross validation of all these elements. Okay, to improve the fighting against counterfeiting, it's possible to make sure that this tag it's not able to be taken and put in another product. So when it's destructive, ultra destructive, you end up being having a solution that is not it's more easy to counterfeit. Okay, these elements that we are addressing here usually are custom made to the client needs. So we can make a tag to textile purpose, to clothes. We can make to to bottles, we can make to perfumes, to bags, to shoes. We can add this feature to to several industry types. In terms of traceability, this solution with the Unicode allows you to, when you identify a product, you can have a web platform for track and traceability, where you register how many tags you have here and how many tags you distribute to your supply chain, okay? Who got what tag, and from there you can also register all the interaction. We have solutions like this for tobacco tax stamp here in Portugal, and together with a European initiative, and we can do it in a smaller based here in Portugal for different proposals. Okay, all the information that we can add to this code is, once is identified, you can know exactly the story of that product, where it was produced, where it was bottled, and from there the way that the bottle will do in terms of the supply chain. The most interesting, the end proposal of this solution should be to enable the marketing offer, saying that the client can be an authority. You can have you can empower the consumer to confirm if this product is authentic. Okay, and this is not possible usually when you go to buy a sneaker or a sports shirt. You trust that that store is selling authentic material. The price should be the same, more or less, but at the end, you can stay with the doubt if it's original or not. You don't actually have 100% sure if it is authentic. So with this tool, you are able to check if it's true and to understand what you can do afterwards with that. Okay. The last point, of course, you know the client better. You know where they buy it, where the readings are being done. For instance, you can buy a shirt here and then get readings from Brazil, and you understand that there's a need or market or an interest in Brazil for some reason, and you can have alerts, because 5 minutes from now you cannot have a reading now and a reading in Japan. Okay, because it doesn't make sense. Something is strange on this situation. At least it would require an analysis. So going to the actually application in terms of the solution, we brought you two case studies. One, the client was concerned about the contrafaction on the bottle of wine, a famous bottle of wine. I won't say the name, but the price goes from 900 to 1,000 euro. Yeah. Yeah, not that much. And they contact us in a fair where we presented Unicode, and we started talking about how we could help to solution its problem. Okay, and we designed completely a custom-made solution. Like Nuno was saying, we have a bottle with a stamp, a tag stamp like here. We have a bottle with an ultra-destructive material. We tested, and we had the investigation team helping us to find out this substrate. It's a PVC. It wasn't easy to find out. Okay, wasn't easy to find out. So it breaks. We have, of course, for the printers that are listening to us, we have kiss cut, a specific design of kiss cut that makes the paper easier to break in some parts. It's a small cut, invisible small cuts. And of course, we have some elements that human can verify. The glitter, it's also sexy, so it shines. Usually people like the glitter. We have an hologram, and we have you have a Unicode that allows us to travel into the digital world. And when you connect to the digital world, we go to the traceability portal. It's a web platform, easy to set up. that allows you to manage your profile and all the readings that you get related to this tag. To connect these both worlds, of course, there's an app. We have been making iOS and Android apps, and this proprietary algorithm implemented in an app that can do only the product validation or other things. Main advantage, benefits verified with this solution. Unprecedented label lifecycle control, as you can see, empowerment to the client and for the brand, a new communication channel for this brand in terms of the product walkthrough, and of course in terms of brand reputation, because when you sell when you want to put in the market a very specific product, you want to make sure that the customers are not misled in terms of the buying decision. Okay. And of course, they also told the competitors, see, we're doing something different and we are using state-of-the-art technology. This was object of some press releases on launch. In terms of the second case study that we brought here, and I'm closing, the second case study, it's a company that produces sport material. And for you to understand a little bit how it works, the sport material has a royalty mechanism model. So I allow some factories to produce some quantity and rely on their trust to believe that they produce exactly that quantity. And they pay according to those agreements, okay? If they produce more or less, we never know, okay? So this happens for some brands, and they are already not our clients. And one of these perspectives that we make is to evolve our current clients to our new technologies. And this is what this example is about making sure that the business model evolves according to the business needs, and the product evolves to a state-of-the-art technology. This product will be launched in the next weeks, and certainly I hope to see some press releases announcing the advantages of this utilization. Okay, when we make a very specific, a more controlled process over the tags, one of the advantages that happens are royalties increase, of course. Time in operations reduced substantially because all the information is digitalized and centralized in the portal. And all the fiscal authorities have, and not only the end client, the fiscal authorities have specific tools to, in real time, validate if the product is authentic or not. Okay, so my message now for closing is keep up with this work. We appreciate to have different new technology to work for in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Thank you very much, Nuno, for this nice overview on this new technology. So we are trying to pick up on the schedule, but nevertheless, I will give the audience the opportunity to put some questions. If you have one or two questions, first question. You have it.
You gave an example of the portals. Do you have any type of approach with the logo class? Because we are now and they are the guys that in Portugal make of this plastic portals. Because if you want for, because I cannot see that the authenticity of the bottle of water, nothing. That's the great.
Prove the authenticity of a bottle of water, what I need.
Just to understand, you're asking to ask what you need, what do you need additionally if we have a partnership with LogoPass. This was just an example. Yeah, usually we tend to implement solutions where there are a business case justifying it. This is a very small value for the innovation, the complexity of this innovation. Moreover, we can não sei se queres completar.
Well, maybe we the security is because the label is sticked in the bottle, in this case glass, and if someone tries to break or at least pick the label, he will destroy it. It will be destroyed, and then it's evident, it's temporary evidence. So it's evident that the bottle was compromised. Of course, in terms of plastics, we are not printing labels for plastics, or well, the labels that we do can of course be used in plastics. But I guess that your question is that if we could do some solution tailored for plastics.
Yes.
Yes, we probably don't have yet this solution, but yeah, why not? We can of course study this.
Because I believe that one of things is the cost. I can pay for a bottle of good wine, and this does not matter, but for a bottle of
Oh,
yeah,
sorry for that.
yeah, of course, but that's why we need to have solutions that are very very cheap. So the stamp itself must be very cheap to be interesting to use as well in low cost products.
But just to complement, sorry, I'll be quick. This bottle already has an anti-counterfeit feature. If you notice, when it's open, you have this break-in. Okay, so it was adjusted to the need and to the product. Of course, if we say in the specific countries where the water is well, I was thinking on giving the example of fuel cost, but for now it's it's not very, yeah, okay. So in specific countries where the bottle of water is very expensive, it will be a solution to evaluate. Okay.
Okay, so we had one question from Joanna.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Two questions. One is the label that you are printing, you need to put in some object, or the label can be itself a stick. For example, I'm thinking in festival tickets where we have a lot of problems. So, and
sorry. Yes, of course, it can be a stick, and it can be only an image printed on something else. Okay, because we can generate the Unicode and then distribute it according to some kind of procedure that is predefined. Okay, it's no issue. We can help you with that also.
Okay, we can think. And the second question is, what is your capacity to scale up the technology? Or well, if you already think.
We are already producing very different scales of solutions. We have the solution for tobacco stamps that are a million of stamps, okay, always producing, and we have the production for 50,000 stamps, 50,000 stamps for different products. I would say for now, the more important was to get the correct URL and put the technology in the market and start to find out if it works. Okay, then we understood that there's a multiplicity of segments of sectors where this can be applied, and we can adjust our capacity and our structure according to the customer needs. So we are not limited.
I will just complement with because one of the key factors that influences the price of the solution is the fact that for some of the use cases we need to have cameras on the production line. If we need cameras on the production line to acquire the unique elements of the glitter particles, for instance, or the unique elements of the hologram, this will increase the price of the solution. But it can be scaled up, and we could, for instance, license the technology to other productions or to other factories that could produce this technology and scale up for other sectors. But this is one of the key factors: is if we need or not. If we need or not cameras in the production, and this of course will define several layers or several levels of security. If we need, for instance, the security for tobacco packs is not, of course, the same security that we need for passports, or that we need for security documents, or that we need for bottles of expensive wines, or even in the wines we have several levels of security, of course. So this will define how we can scale up, but of course we can scale up the technology because it's not difficult to produce these as long as we have the correct technology, of course.
Just to complement, this is a completely digital product, decode. So the capacity is the number of machines that we have. Okay, that's only, and you can buy it with service on the cloud, so it's easy to scale. If we're talking about this technology only, yeah.
Digital, but with a link with physical, yeah, of course, elements.
Okay, so thank you very much for the questions. We have more time then on coffee break, but also good for the ones that are attending online to have this discussion. So thank you very much for your presentation. So we'll pass to next one. As already announced, so we'll have Guneri Tuksu from Digimark to hear about another solution for for supply chain and for identify fakes and brand integrity. So
almost 30 years. There you go. Now you should hear me better. We started actually in the secret money industry. So even today, Digimark works with the central banks for anti-counterfeiting deterrence. So we work with the central banks, and chances are high that if you have a paper bill in your pocket, there's the Digimark technology on it. The technology evolved into the identification documentation. So Digimark watermarks have been a predominantly security layer for the US driver's license for more than 10 years. We then slowly developed into the print and packaging. Print in regards of publications, books, magazines, leaflets, and even your weekly circular that you get from your local grocery store. And of course, based on the watermark power, we evolved into the packaging industry, and this will be the focus of our presentation today. Just a fun note, in 2015, Digimark has won the famous Emmy Award for our audio watermark. It's basically a signal hidden into audio or video in any kind of media that turns a signal into consumer engagement. So we won the Emmy for our participation as an innovative solution for the Angry Birds movie when it was released back in the theaters. So the technology, or our flagship technology, so to say, is actually about hiding. Our goal is to hide technology into an imperceptible layer. We try to avoid the word invisible, because all of the printing, packaging, and security experts will basically always see a slight distortion. So the more imperceptible we are, the better the solution is actually. And there are two layers associated to it. One is the encoding, which is basically hiding any kind of signal. And the second layer is basically the decoding. It's reading that signal. And I will give you some insights about the power of that combination in the following slides. So what we basically do is we hide some sort of a pattern, as you can see on the bottom left. It's kind of like a pattern of codes, two-dimensional data carriers in kind of codes, data metrics, QR codes, or the GS1, G10, like a pattern all over the design. And the benefit here is we work with the existing layers and color separations. We don't add any colors. We don't change printing technologies, processes, or anything. We work with the existing artworks and designs without any additional costs. And the goal is ultimately working with partners, creative media agencies, printers, converters all over Europe and the world to actually hide it as good as possible, but also make it as robust as possible to read. Now, one of our key industries where we are very successful, having clients like Walmart globally, also Netto, the German retailer, is actually enable them to have a much more efficient scanning process. So Digimark technologies can improve your scanning rate more than 40%. So you can literally throw an item above the scanner at retail front of store, and it will detect that item rather than scanning multiple times trying to find the code. Another layer, because we talked about inks, is actually the varnish. So we've been successfully working on our varnish solution. That basically means we don't touch any of the precious colors, inks, or designs. In some cases, like iconic products, like Nutella products, where you have a lot of white, premium brands, beauty products, where you don't really have imagery to hide something, we can work with the varnish only. So as you can see, those are two print sheets from R&D trials beginning of year, where we have basically a pattern applied to the existing varnish of your packaging. Again, no change, no additions or complementation of your varnish protective layers. And whether it's a matte varnish, a glossy varnish, a screened, or a very specific pattern, we basically hide the contrast by shooting very, very tiny holes into the flexo plates or cylinders for the applied varnish. And this basically enables to detect and identify any kind of printed item. And by this, especially through digital printing and inline marking, and we do work with major players like Matthews Marking Systems, Koenig & Bauer Coding, Domino, and many more on inkjet and laser coding, we can even apply a serialized watermark for single item level detection. I'll explain you more about that in our following slides on brand protection. And by this, the digital watermark could technically enable you multiple use cases at the same time. So watermark applied on your packaging, visualized on the left, could enable you to do consumer engagement, right? Consumer scan, get gamification, customer loyalty, or any kind of consumer educational content. You can use the same code for your operational efficiency. You can make sure that the right pudding goes into the right cup with the right lip with the same technology without having multiple technologies at the same time. And of course, that will be a major focus today, will be the sustainability part. Digimark has been successfully applied on all kinds of printed and rigid plastics materials to enable a better recycling and sortation process. And of course, you can even go as far as brand protection use cases with the same technology, which could be then serialized on top. And of course, just like the previous presentation, all of these solutions actually combine into a very strong new layer of omni-channel activities for any brand owner or retailer. So talking about applications, very important to know is the source of detection. We have two examples. So we have different light sources, cameras, so to say, which is like the human eye, the white light, usually within your smart devices, your smartphone, your tablet, and also red light, which is mainly used at retail, front of store, handheld scanners, and detection systems in your manufacturing process. They usually always have a red light camera, which is much more cheaper than a white light camera, right? So, and additionally, we have highlighted here the blue light source. Now, why is this important? So if you look at the bottom, you see a label. Let's say this is a product X, a very colorful design created by designers, very bright, right? As you can see on the bottom left. So a white light camera, your smartphone, tablet, will actually detect the slightest distortion. So we could technically apply an almost invisible code into that design. The cameras of your smartphone and tablet would still detect it and identify the content associated to it. Now, the challenge in the real world, in production and retail environment, is limited light sources color space. So red light cameras, one of the biggest disadvantages is actually a very limited color space. Red light cameras and sensors don't detect any color that goes into the yellowish or reddish, right? Any kind of yellow color, red color is not recognized. You can see it in the visualization below the red light is how much is actually left being read by a red light camera. So very little of your initial very colorful design. So what we do at Digimark is actually by combining blue light, and you can see a major difference in the visualization at the bottom is between the blue light and the red light. So blue light covers any kind of color spectrum into the yellow and into the red. And by combining these slides, as you will see it later, we can actually improve a major milestone within the recycling sortation vector. So you always have to keep in mind on, depending on what kind of code you use, what are actually the light sources, the environment that needs to detect those codes. And by this, digital watermarks can be applied and are applied in many industries. We talk about paper, of course, food labels, any kind of thermal printed labels at print of site, so grocery stores, manufacturing. Of course, inline, as mentioned before, we work with the leading companies today. They have solutions in hand to apply digital watermarks. But you can also even apply digital watermarks into any kind of metal or surfaces, right? It could be vinyl, could be your chair, your flooring, or any kind of printed items. A major piece, and that's why it's in the middle, is actually plastics. So digital watermark can actually apply into the rigid without any addition. And I'll show you more about this later. In the more, let's say, fun and creative corner of Digimark solutions are apparel. So Digimark watermarks are applied on all major league, Premier League soccer jerseys since almost 3 years with a partner of ours. So if you buy a Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea jersey, you already have Digimark technologies applied to it and can authenticate the jersey. And of course, as mentioned at the beginning, tabs, circulars, books, magazines, and of course, any kind of media. Could be a social media video, could be your radio car spot that gives you a trigger. Hey, thank you for listening to our commercial. Let's go ride 300 meters to the next Lidl and you get a coupon 2 for the price of 1 whatsoever. And by this, digital watermarks can actually help you to go through the whole supply chain. So technically, starting from the materials, recycled materials, I'll explain more about this later, to the pre-press, design, and printing stage, where it's applied, manipulated, or used as a part of the design, to fresh fruit traceability. We work with the leading fresh berries producer in the United States that uses digital watermarks for track and trace at the production, basically at the farm, picking those berries all over the logistics, distribution, retail to consumers. You can use our technology in the packaged goods and fulfillment centers, distribution, logistics, to identify single item, batch level trays, or even the police. Of course, retail is where we come from. Front of store scanning, self-scanning, scan and go, inventory check, consumer engagement, point of sale. And of course, the consumers can connect to all of these technologies with a simple scan with their mobile device. And last but not least, very important, major milestone of us, you can use digital watermarks to identify plastics and make sure that it's sorted and identified right. So just quickly about the technology before we dive into the solutions is the product digitization. We heard about it in the previous presentation as well. So the ultimate goal is actually not only put a code, it could be any kind of code, onto your physical item. It's actually about creating the digital twin that is associated to that single physical item. Ideally in a serialized world where we can really track the item individually, but the reality on CPGs, FMCGs, fast moving consumer goods, is costs, right? Cost is a very sensitive topic. So we're still working on getting more serialization into those fields. That's a different use case than we go into premium, fashion, or maybe governance like tech stamps, which is a different use case, right? The second part of it is actually connecting that digital twin that is basically ghosting your physical item into a smart system that tracks all of that activities. Who is scanning what, when, where, production, logistics, retail, consumers, and giving you those insights. And last but not least is actually the goal is, what do I do with all of this data, right? So if we talk about a chip spec that's produced 100 million times in Portugal, you want to know who's scanning what, when, where, how often, how long do they stay on your content page. So the goal of our platform, the product cloud platform, as we call it, is actually to give you the intelligence about these data pieces and work on it on your marketing, as also mentioned before, to give you the insights to know more about your consumers and to personalize the experience. And by this, we can basically start with ensuring that the product is authentic, right? If I buy a product, and COVID has pushed it even more into the e-commerce. So today's numbers in regards of e-commerce activities are significantly increased within the last 2 years. Consumers don't spend so much time anymore at the POS, so point of sale at the retail, they buy stuff online. And with that comes the risk, you don't really know what you get when you buy something from Amazon Marketplace, eBay, or any of official online platform. You just don't know. So of course, another part is actually measure as a marketing. So I'm not going to read out all of this, but it's really the central part is once is authentication. The second is marketing. Who's your consumer? How do they react with you? How often do they use online subscription systems and stuff like this? The second part about is working with that data and optimizing your operations. So most of the major CPGs, Danone, Mondelez, P&G, Nestle, you name it, they all produce gigantic numbers, right? Huge volumes of products, any sort of. So how can I use innovation and technology to actually improve my operational efficiency? And last but not least, it becomes more and more important is actually consumer. We want a personalized experience. I want to feel like the brand cares about me. I want to know that the brand is honest to me. In the past years, you could have, mentioned you're organic, you're sustainable, and all that stuff. Today, people actually Google you, they research you, and they expect you as a brand owner to share committed information. And all of this can be combined in a Digimark product cloud system, which basically enables you to not only identify the digital twin throughout the whole journey, it enables you a direct D2C, as we say, a direct to consumer channel to connect, react, offer him a digital subscription service, share the data about your consumers, and just give them a feeling that you care about that person, consumer relationship you can build up. Of course, as any dashboard, it's customizable. So you can actually see who's scanning what, when, where, whether it's in the production, the logistics, supply chain, or the consumers interacting with your content. How long do they stay on your website? What do they do on your website? So that really gives you insights to improve all of your online activities and your approach to consumers directly. A very important part about Digimark's technology today is actually recycling. So I don't know which of you or who of you actually heard about the Holy Grail project. So just a quick introduction. The first Holy Grail, as the name states, a very important project initiated originally by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, 2016 to 2019, had the goal to improve recycling. Today's recycling numbers are really, really poor. So we don't know if it's a food, non-food item, monofoil versus multi-layer foil, and so on and so on. Back in that project, different solutions like chemical tracers and much more have been tested, evaluated on scale to find the right technology to improve this circular economy issue. So by the end of the project, Digimark watermarks have been pulled in, and we were able to immediately improve that sortation process by more than 90%. So based on the success of Holy Grail 1.0, Holy Grail 2.0 by AIM, the European Brands Association, has been initiated. Today, with around 176 members, as far as I know, is one of the largest sustainability projects in the world, and basically a lead for many other regions and countries to look into. You can see some of the brand owners here. There's basically not one major CPG, no major retailer missing. We have software companies, we have hardware companies, we have printers, converters, sortation center providers. Any kind of member that has even the slightest touch in regards of CPG, FMCG products is part of this project. And of course, some are more active, some are less active, but the majority is really keen on working and establishing a solution for much better recycling. So what we basically do is we put a digital watermark either in a printed label, as mentioned before, or in the rigid itself. And by this, we can actually ensure whether this bottle is empty, crushed, soiled, or whatsoever. With a label or no label, we can identify this properly and sort it accordingly. So with this robustness, we can actually improve that process, which is currently today somewhere between 240% to more than 99%. So what we basically do is we put a pattern similar to the printed part into a rigid. This is the so-called 3D technology we refer to. So the bottle actually gets a pattern into the mold, either through thermoforming, laser etching, blow molding, however it's produced. And that pattern without any addition, so we're not adding any ink or any kind of new materials into the existing rigids, it's basically readable for the sortation or recycling centers. And by this, we can actually enable the proper identification. You see it on the graphics on the right. So basically all of these items, the waste in any kind of circumstance, right? It's not really pristine as it looks like this. It's more like this when it arrives at the sortation center. And we can still detect this with 99% accuracy on that sortation belt, whether it's crushed, soiled, covered, or in pieces with label or without label. And by this, we can help brand owners to make sure and get the numbers they need for EPR fee schemes, for EU regulations that might come up, to show that their products are being recycled properly. And of course, consumers can scan it as well to identify, how do I recycle this? In some regions like Germany, you have a yellow waste bin, a brown waste bin, a blue waste bin. In some regions, you don't, right? And in some regions or countries, it's really hard to know how to separate your packaged product accordingly and properly. So in this case, you can actually share information with your consumers, how to sort, how to recycle properly at the same time, gaining the insights, who's your consumer, how often do they react, how often do they scan your product. And that improves significantly your product digitization. So by the end of this product, and I'm sorry for the wrong formatting on the left, is we just had a press release by AIM, the European Brands Association, confirming that we hit 99% detection and ejection. That means that this product, out of the 125,000 items we had with 26 different SKUs from all brand owners and members, we were able to identify 99% of these plastics and sort them properly: food versus non-food, monofoil versus multi-layer foil, rigids versus softs, and any kind of categories that are basically tied to it. And the beauty about this is there are no limitations. You can technically include unlimited amount of data to it, because all it does is it associates an individual code with this plastic item that goes to a cloud system. And you can have all the information you want, as much as you want, in that product cloud, going back to a sortation system. So unlimited data possibilities coming out of this highly successful project. And currently we are basically in phase 3, which is a large trial within the markets of France, Germany, and Denmark, where we are trying to confirm the numbers in a real environment, going through production, retail, logistics, retail, consumers, and waste. And as you can see, there's a violet light here just quickly. This is the combination of red light and blue light. So for us as a human being, it looks like a violet light, but it's actually 2 light sources that actually identify those and sort it properly. Again, with a 99% accuracy. Quickly into the brand integrity part. So the same watermark in many cases can be also used throughout the production. So major brand owners have an issue that the wrong ice cream goes into the wrong cup with the wrong lid. And as a consumer, if you are craving for chocolate, you don't want to go home, open up your chocolate ice cream and it's vanilla, right? Or strawberry or whatever. So we can help to identify your product on the production. And today, most of the products actually have a data metrics code. So that's a very small code for those who don't know. Looks similar to a QR code. But the challenge there is in a production environment at the major CPGs, when they produce millions, hundreds of millions of items, speed. So a can, a bottle is turning, twisting. It's cold, it's wet, it's hot, whatever circumstances are existing. So, and then you need to try to hit that small particular data metrics code at one side of the product. That's a big challenge. And that's a big issue that goes into the millions at those CPGs. A digital watermark all over the packaging enables you, and it doesn't really care how the bottle is turning, twisting, whatever. The code is all over. So the chances are incredibly high that you will hit the code, identify properly, and make sure that you have the right yogurt in the right cup and the right lid on top of it. And very importantly, because we mentioned before, yes, the hardware part is the essential part. Today, most of the manufacturing plants have hardware in place, whether it's Datalogic, Honeywell, NCR, Zebra, or Cognex. And we're proud to say that we already work with all of these companies. So they have hardware in the market that can already read digital watermarks or can easily be upgraded with a software update to be enabled to read digital watermarks in a production environment. So we're reducing the cost of hardware investment significantly, which can go up into 100,000s or even millions, depending on the size and volume of the factory. And brand integrity, a major focus, obviously, for today. So as Digimarc, we have acquired the product cloud company called Everything in January 2022. With this, we've actually finally have a product cloud system, as I mentioned before. And with this, our activities in the brand integrity business have been increased significantly. We basically help brand owners, and whether it's beauty, fashion, CPGs, automotive, or even tobacco and pharmaceuticals, to actually have different layers of protection. In many cases, it's not really about that one particular code you put on, which you could fake one way or another. It's really more about the two-factor authentication in many cases and a digital twin associated, because that's the only way that really gives you this multi-layer of security and protection. And for this, and that's a big difference and shift in the past, is we don't really care about its watermark, which is a great solution. But in some cases, it's just not applicable. If we talk about very premium products with minimum design, like no imagery, a very plain silver metallic, golden metallic, or any kind of challenging design where you can't hide something and the brand owner doesn't want to sacrifice the design, different technologies like NFC or image recognition or QR codes might be a better option. So for our product cloud, it doesn't really matter what kind of codes we combine for a multi-layer brand protection use case. So by this, we can actually have authentication tools, the product cloud. You can use our software, whether the independent app we have, or use our software development kit, the SDK, to integrate it into any kind of apps. We can even offer web scanning, which is very important for authorities, because you can't tell custom employers to have 50 different brand owner apps to authenticate new stuff coming into the country at customs. So web scanning is one option where they can just go to website, scan without the need to install an app and verify the product and authenticate it. Of course, all of this intelligence is being tracked in the product cloud and can be used for the insights of brand owner side. And with this, we can basically enable from single item level, which could be the let's say this pharmaceutical example, the package, the single item package itself, to the box, to the case pack, or even the corrugated shipping container, or the pallet even, right? We can have different codes, covert and overt. So basically visible and non-visible. You could have a QR code to scan natively, right? No need to app, no fuss, basically. And then that website, after you scan the QR code, asks you to verify the digital watermark that is hidden somewhere, which you can't replicate, can't even see. And with this, you can authenticate that let's say, going the way back, that the corrugated shipping container is authenticated with the case pack, with the product package, and with the single item product. And then actually see it on the below, use the data from raw materials to factory, logistics, warehouse, and a consumer to authenticate, get further information, or customer loyalty, gamification, etc. Again, just a summary, track and trace enabled through either two-factor authentication or single codage. We can track all of these data pieces. We can enable the recycling and end-of-life information and combine all of through very sensitive information like product manufacturing, and help the marketing and the company as a whole to gain that insights, because it's not only the data to share with consumers, it's also the data to improve your supply chain. You want to know how long your logistics takes. Do you have delays? Is your product too slow in the market? And all of this can be actually improved by having the right amount of data through the digital twins. And going to the final slides, this is a use case because we've been very successful working in the tobacco industry, as well as basically use not only the product cloud, but different technologies to basically enable the whole journey. Let's say you start from the leaves, the tobacco leaves at the farm, where you start to scan the first tray where those leaves go into the single cigarette. Today, in many markets, people still buy single cigarettes out of a bowl, right? So they grab into a bowl and buy 1 cigarette, 2 cigarettes, 3 cigarettes. And you don't know what you get, especially Middle East, Southeastern Asia, or APAC region. There are still a lot of countries where people buy single level cigarettes. And you can use digital watermarks actually to have it on the single cigarette, whether it's on tipping paper or design itself, to identify that single cigarette, right? This, of course, can go into the box where we have use cases in Southeast Asia, very successfully reducing counterfeiting issues and detecting gray market issues, where it's really hidden in the cigarette pack itself, up to the box, and of course, the corrugated tray. Now you can use these data actually to make sure that all the products are authentic, that you don't have a supply chain or production issue, but also use it for quality control. Again, as mentioned before, is my supply chain optimized? Do I have any delays that I need to fix? Do I have any holes that I might have to fix for gray market issues? And then, of course, in those markets, even share that data with consumers. So you can make sure that somebody scanning a cigarette in Bangladesh, Vietnam, Iraq, or whatever, is that single item level is authentic. Now, cigarettes are really not very healthy, but still the tobacco companies want to make sure that they don't get any counterfeited product that might be much more dangerous. right? So consumers can just pick up their phone, scan that single cigarette and make sure that it's authentic. And if a Marlboro, Camel, or whatever brand, it is what they get, right? Same side for data. You can see who's scanning what, when, where, how often, and work with that data to have experience associated with this. Now, different markets have different regulations. So it can be technically on the health warning images on the cigarette backs here, or on the cigarette or the design hidden. It really depends on the region and the regulations in that field. And of course, last but not least, you can use the Digimark watermark to identify for recycling, right? To make sure, even if it's paper-based, the foil or whatsoever, that it's properly identified, sorted, and help consumers to do the right things. And all of that journey basically can be traced and tracked and gathered into the product cloud, which basically gives you then the insights from farm to fork, basically from the leaf to the consumer, to the recycling phase, and helps you as a tobacco company, as a government institution, to identify the problems, the solutions, the supply chain, or any gaps and holes that might exist throughout the whole journey. And that was a very quick run through to digital watermark solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, for the presentation. So time for one question before the coffee break, then we have time for more questions if you have. So any question from the audience?
I'm a little bit puzzled because you have two activities. One is controlling the waste somehow,
because you try to look for the recycling, but on the recycling, you don't need to get some sensors, because you have to know you cannot recycle everything, because I don't know how the bottles are, how I can really perform the recycling if I don't know, if I don't have sensors to identify.
Yeah, so one of the goals at the Holy Grail project is we work with companies like Tomra and Pellet. They produce the hardware at the recycling and sortation centers, the sortation systems. And their systems can easily be upgraded with an upgrade module to identify digital watermarks. So the same sortation center today, let's say in Lisbon, that is not reading Digimark, could be easily upgraded and then identify all kind of plastics that have digital watermarks on it.
Okay.
Any other first question? Did someone raise your hand? No?
Speak now or
okay, final question before the coffee break.
So for your systems, what is the lower level of the price of the product that can incorporate this?
it doesn't matter. Of course, we need to specify the use case, but since we come from CPGs and FMCG, it's really about price, right? If you have a chips bag that's like 40 cents and the margin is 3%, you don't really have money to invest in NFC and stuff. So our solution is scalable because it doesn't require any additions, right? You could put it into, the gentleman asked about a water bottle. Like I paid, I think 39 cents at the supermarket across the street for this. So the margin is, I don't know, 2%, 3%. We can still work out something to have it in the rigid for the good purpose of sustainability, but at the same time to authenticate the rigid, let's say with the lid, because we also work with companies that put a code into the lid, for example, with laser. So you could combine and make sure that the water is authentic, at the same time use it for sustainability. And while combining multiple solutions, we can actually reduce the cost significantly. So for us, there is no use case where we would say we don't do this because it's scalable. At the end, we need to evaluate the whole project, but there are no limitations, whether it's a cheap water bottle or a premium whiskey for 500 euros. It doesn't matter.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now it's time for coffee break, 20 minutes. Okay, so enjoy. Let's restart, and we'll start the second part of our event with Diogo Cunha from Invisible, that will talk about new opportunities for supply chain monitoring using effective and low-cost e-paper displays. So please, Diogo.
On the supply chain monitoring marketing using our own displays. First of all, I'm going to share a video. There's a small presentation of the company. So basically what we do is that we produce ultra low power printed e-paper displays. So what is this display? So basically if you explode it up, like you see here, you have a different stack of inks encapsulated in two polymer substrates. So, and this display has key characteristics that makes it unique. So the energy efficient, because you just need 1.5 to 3 voltage to operate it. It has some image memory. So compared to e-ink, is not fully bistable. So it's semi-bistable. It has an image memory for 5 to 10 minutes, and then will start to decay until it reaches 40 minutes, 50 minutes. And it only needs less than 1 microwatt per square centimeter to activate the segment. So if you have a segment of a centimeter, less than 1 microwatt is enough. We say less than 1 microwatt because that will depend on the size of the segment. So it can go from 0.1 to 1 microwatt. Since it's based on printed technology, it's flexible and thin because, again, it's printed on a polymer substrate. And it can be customized even in the shape of the outer display or the segment that you want to activate it. Right now, we don't have any video showing here, but you can also add colors into it. So the activated area would always be blue because that's the color of the ink that we use. But you can add colors on the top that would work as a filter. So you could see the activating through a color filter. It's cost effective because of its production, and now it's integrated. So since it's printed, we can scale up from sheet to roll machinery and have thousands or millions printed in just one roll. And it's easy to integrate in other electronics. So even if it is through connectors or some ACF glue. And even on those electronics, it's very easy to drive. So with the coin cell, a normal clicker, and you just plug the display, it's enough to light it up. One of the key characteristics that we also want to light up is the sustainability, because compared to other display technologies, our competitors, even if it's not display and it's just an LED, or if we're talking with TFT displays, LCD displays, e-ink displays, they produce more e-waste than we do. So, and one thing that we want to achieve in the future is a way that for us to recycle this polymer substrate that's encapsulating the display itself. The inks inside is also non-toxic because this was for us a huge achievement to work in the kids section, toys, and so on. And this needs to be here, and it's reusable. So it's simple plug and play. The display is not needed for your case anymore. You can take the display out and use it in other occasions. So with all these characteristics, makes our display suitable for intuitive and simple visual feedback. So what can we do? We can do segments and icons, monochrome colors, as I said, the blue and the color filters on top, activations in every minute or second. So you're not seeing a video or a full contrast HD movie on our display. So go back in time and think on the displays that were in the calculators. So you'd see every segment, but then they would just light up the segment that you interacted with. It's ultra low power budget and it's thin and flexible. And for us, this is a good characteristic because it's only thin and flexible display in the market right now. So all of these reasons made our display suitable for what we think is the smart marking labels market. Why? Because it can bring visual feedback for every electronic product. So one thing that you're trying to be is the face of IoT. So data is everywhere, and we just want to give that feedback into people. And so the first solution that I bring here is for logistic and cold chain monitoring. So basically to track products that are temperature and humidity sensitive, a smart expired date label that would track the shelf time of a product. And the last but not least, an authenticity and security label that would say that the product is authentic or not, and would enhance the product experience with the consumer. So first of all, the logistics monitoring, what would we say is we'll give 5 simple icons. One, there's always working. If the threshold of the humidity of the temperature have been breached in some time of the transportation of the cold chain, the display would light up and tell you immediately. Of course, in this case, you also have the full logging capabilities. So by NFC, you can scan it and it would redirect you to a page where you have the full graphic of where the package has been and when it passes those thresholds that was set by the customer. Another label that I bring here, it was a product developed with a Swedish company, if I'm recalling correctly, called Innocentia. And what they do is basically they develop a methane sensor. And our job in Visible was to create a visual feedback for that sensor, but also to print that sensor that they were developing. So basically attached to the sensor was a small battery and some electronics that would read the state of the deterioration of the meat inside the package and would say to the customer or the client or to the distributor if the content inside is still good or not to being delivered. The last demo that I bring here is authentic and security label. So one thing that you're trying to make with this is to make a fully printed product that where you have a full NFC pads and display printed only on one substrate, and then you can further laminate it if it's on a label, if it's on a box, in the product that you want to be authentic. And what does it say if this product is authentic or not? So companies can write on the tag their authentic product pages, and then when you read with your NFC, because one thing that I forgot to say in the beginning, so NFC, RFID, Bluetooth, LoRa, is enough to power the display. So all this wireless communication that exists is enough to power our display. So in case you just scan with your NFC and the display would light up. So we have the two-step authentication in there. So the written tag that the company did and our display, because it's almost impossible to copy. And even so, the electrochromical inks that we have inside have been developed for us and for other research institutes, and we have the license to sell those and to commercialize those. So no other people can do exactly like this display as we do it. Right now, just to give a full brief of what Invisible does, because I showed that we do ultra low power displays, but we develop them, but how can we produce them? So to get a brief overview of what we do, we have in Freiburg, Germany, our laboratory, our R&D, where the technology of the electrochromic and the display is being developed. We have in Almada, our customer solution center and our prototype manufacturer is where also our product development of the display is going on. And then we can scale up that prototype or pilot production to our roll-to-roll machine in Linköping, Sweden. So we can go from idea to mass production. We can ideate the display that the customer wants, prototype it, and then pass it to high volumes and get it into the market. One thing that we also do with the roll-to-roll machine is not that we just not produce our own printed technology, but we also provide other companies the aid for them to print their technologies. So Invisible has two main strengths. Display and RID is what I told. So we focus on selling and developing the display itself as a component. And then we have the Display Plus, is a solution development with other partners. And this is where we focus to get products out in a full printed way. So we worked with a lot of companies like Evonik, Shine. So we would print in only one substrate, the display, the battery, and then a photovoltaic panel. So in one substrate, you had a product that is ready to use, charged, and be used whatever you want. One of the applications that we are putting these products is on retail shelf labels, because the photovoltaics can be charged with indoor light. That indoor light will charge the printed battery, and that whole system will make our display works and show the price labels to the customers. To go to our prototype production, because in case anyone wants to work with us, we have a service of what you call a CDP, is a custom display prototype. So for a fee of 200,000 euros, you can propose your display, you can propose your design, we will review it, we will work entirely with the customer, not just on the display part, but also on the electronics part, and we get in 1 week 10 to 50 displays ready to be used. So, and right now, a brief video of how this production happens, how this sheet-to-sheet production works. But basically, it's serigraphic printing. So it's not inkjet or laser printing. One thing that I forgot to point out is that not just the production, but we also guarantee the optical and the electrical testing of everything that is produced in-house. So even if it's on the sheet-to-sheet, the prototype production, or if it's on the roll-to-roll high-volume production. So right now, to pass to the high-volume production, so the roll-to-roll machine, so we are very versatile because we can laminate, dice cut, we can produce and individualize every display in just one machine and also test it. And right now, just to give a brief overview of the capacities, we can produce 200 meters of roll in an 8-hour shift. So if you have a display that's 2 centimeters, that's almost like a million displays in one sheet, in one roll. And right now is going to be a brief overview of what roll-to-roll is and the capacities that it has. So on the roll-to-roll machine that you just saw is where we can provide that service to other companies. So Happy, Shine, and Evonik, like I said, the photovoltaic and the printed battery companies, they came to us to develop their product, to print their product and to bring the product to the market, to the consumer. And before ending, I would just like to point out that in our website, we have these 2 main kits, the segment e-paper display kit and the designer kit, which has some colors into it that you can buy on our website, see our technology, and thank you very much. One thing that I forgot to point out, the company has these 3 main operation sites, Germany, Freiburg, Lisbon, Portugal, and Linköping, Sweden. But we are quoted in the Canadian market, stock market. So we have a headquarters in Vancouver. So if you go to our website, you say that the company is from Vancouver because we need to have investor related and financial office in there because we are in that stock market.
Okay, so Diogo, thank you very much for the overview on this technology. So we have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience, if we have it. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. Can you talk a little bit about the printing techniques?
The printing techniques, in which specific? And overall? So basically serigraphic printing is roll to roll. So you have a frame on sheet to sheet, and on roll to roll, we have a tube that it lets pass the ink through the polymer substrate. So the finer the mesh of the ink, and then with the combination with the grid of the frame, you would let the percentage of ink that you want to pass to the polymer. In that case, you can control the thickness of each ink and then laminate it on top of each other.
For metals and oxides, or only?
No. Just normal inks. In this case, the only ink that we can properly print is our electrolyte and the P dot.
Okay, and about the sensors, you use chips, yes?
Yes, so to run every electronics, you'll still need some component chips or to control CPU, something like that. Built-in NXP chip.
Okay, so thank you very much. Any further questions? Yes, we have one here in front immediately.
Hi.
Any idea about the lifetime of these displays?
Lifetime that you can guarantee for now is 1 million life cycles. So basically turn on and off 1 million times. So, and one thing that we can guarantee that gets longer is because since it has some image memory, you don't need to keep it activated. You just need to give a pulse from 10 to 10 minutes to keep it stable if you want to have it to light up every time.
And what is the thickness of
300 microns?
300 microns?
Yeah.
The complete
stack.
multi-layer stack.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Including the
substrates.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, so thank you, Diogo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we will move for the last presentation that will be given by Ioni from AlmaScience, and that will talk about the concepts behind QR codes. So, Ioni.
Okay, so again, everybody. So my name is Ioni Engel. I'm the VP of Business Development for AlmaScience. So thank you for being here, and thank you, Diogo, for an interesting presentation. In my presentation, I'm going to recap on some of the things that we've already heard before in the previous presentations. Just giving kind of the status of how we see connected packaging today. But following that, I'm going to introduce you with some technologies and projects that we are working on at AlmaScience, and that we hope can build another layer of innovation into these applications. Before going into the technology part, I'll just say again a few words about AlmaScience for those of you who don't know us, and maybe for those of you who know us and don't know everything we do. So AlmaScience is a sustainable tech applied research organization and is a part of the Portuguese Strategic Innovation Program. We are supported by the National Innovation Authority, ANI. We have a team of about, a multidisciplinary team of about 25 PhDs and researchers that are expert in areas such as material science, paper technology, electronics, printing technology, chemistry, and biology. And as Carlos mentioned earlier in the opening talk, alongside these very impressive technology competencies, we are very business and commercial oriented. So we work with industrial partners in order to commercialize IP and to create disruptive technology that creates high economic impact, but low impact on the environment. We focus on innovation on areas such as paper electronics and the use of engineered biocellulose and cork-based materials We do that specifically for these materials because they are readily available, inexpensive, safe, sustainable, and already have a very large production and recycling capacity in place in the industry. So it is our belief and our associates' belief that by using such materials, we can enter an era of sustainable technology, achieving progress while respecting the environment. More specifically about the 4 areas that we work in, or the projects that we're involved in right now. The first is using, as I mentioned, biocellulose materials for life science and for material science applications. The second is large area paper-based electronics for smart home and smart surfaces. And the 2 other that are more focused on what we're talking about here today are focused on connected security and connected product monitoring throughout the supply chain. We are not alone in this journey. We are part of an ecosystem, or what we call the smart paper ecosystem, which is composed of academic partners, leading academic partners here in Portugal, research institutes, and industrial partners that help us to translate advanced technology from academia to commercial applications. Following that brief introduction, let's go back to connected packaging. So it was said here in many words, but in fact, what we get when we create the experience of connected packaging, we bring the product to life. Instead of just a simple label that we have on the product, okay, you can change it. The product is ready and it's going outside. You create a digital dimension or a digital twin of the product that can be modified according to the need. And you can share all sorts of information with consumers or with other stakeholders in the supply chain. So how can we do that today? Today we have all sorts of methods. Most of them were mentioned: QR codes, NFC, RFID. You can scan the product optically, you can tap on it with your phone, you can read it with an RFID reader, and you can get the information. You can, of course, have a Digimark embedded in the product, and that's you've heard about all of what that product can do before. And that mainly serves to create, besides benefits in operational, I'm moving beyond the operational part of the benefits of tagging the product or serializing the packaging. I'm looking at everything that happens once the product leaves the factory. It's a mainly brand and consumer direct or I guess unmediated connection. But what don't we get from that? Solutions that we have today. So when we talk about solutions like the product digital passport, we can know when the product was produced, how it was produced, all sorts of information that the producer wants to share with the consumers. But first of all, we don't know if the information is real, because information carriers can be tampered with, can be replaced. You can print a QR code and link it with whatever website you want. And if you don't scan that QR code with a secure application or with an application of the brand, and you just scan it with your regular QR reader, it can basically direct you to a website that looks exactly like the website of the producer, and you'll never know that. On the other hand, the other option is to install specific applications. Like Gunnar mentioned, something that would require in some locations installing 50 different applications. So maybe starting to become a little bit cumbersome for applying that. The second thing is that we don't have real-time condition monitoring. This concept was already introduced by Diogo, but we do want to know what is the condition of the product at every step of the way, whether it's minced meat or other products. We don't want it to happen discreetly at stations, but we want the product to always be communicating about its condition in the supply chain. And the last thing is that, or the two last things is that, first of all, it requires a line of sight mostly, besides RFID application. So you need to actually scan the product. You need to have visual access to the product. If it's a box that contains secondary packaging or packaging inside, a box that contains 100 products inside, you can't scan one by one. You can rely on aggregation. So you can scan the container and receive aggregated information on what's inside. But if anybody tampered with this box, in meanwhile, then maybe their information that you're getting is not really reflecting what's inside. So overall, we still have a way to go in the value that we can generate to the supply chain itself. So challenges, security. We want to get real elevated security for products. And I chose the strawberry on purpose because maybe you would say, okay, who cares about security when you talk about strawberry? But the challenge is to make these solutions available even for applications or for products that may not be premium products or super expensive products. Like if we're looking at the holy grail of applying these solutions. And also if you're giving your kid a strawberry that has pesticides inside, maybe that's important to you like a passport is for border control. So security, we want to know that the information that we're reading from the product is real. We want to know the condition of the product at every step of the way. We want that to be connected. So we want that always to be talking to the supply chain in a seamless and connected way. And we want to do that, and Gunnar, you mentioned that, we want to do that in a way that doesn't affect the recyclability of the package. So we don't want to throw a lot of electronics on that package that make it irrecyclable in the paper recycling stream, for example, or in the plastic recycling stream that it's applied on. So the first thing that I'm going to address is connected security. We addressed that in the framework of our technology division Sphinx idea. And the first, I'm going to introduce you with two concepts or two projects that we're working on. The first one is RFID Plus, which is the first physically encrypted RFID tag, as far as we know. And that is something that we obviously want to extend our collaboration with the INCM. So feel free to talk to me about that later. So normally when we work with a regular RFID, we send some inquiry using an RFID reader, send an RFID signal, and then we get an answer. The answer is a coded information that can either be the information that we're reading or can have a unique product identifier that sends you to a website. That is not secure information. People can produce RFIDs that generate fake information, can tamper with existing RFIDs and change the information that they're responding to. And overall, it's not secure. What we are working on doing is adding another layer of RF question, which is, besides the information that you're giving me back, please authenticate and provide a unique authentication code. We're doing that by embedding physical materials into the RFID architecture, which means that when we receive this secondary response, we're going to receive a unique, unequivocally authentic response that cannot be reproduced because this is a very special material that is not available to anyone that could just replicate it. So that is the first project or the first concept that I want to introduce you. The second one, I am introducing the concept again of two-factor authentication, but this is a pretty fluid kind of application field. There is many ways you could take this to. So here in this picture, we see a QR code or an information carrier. Of course, that could be a Digimark that's embedded in the package. The first thing you do is you scan the QR code. What you're getting is, you're getting an answer. Just a second, it jumped a little bit ahead. It says, instead, not only the information that you would get normally when you scan a QR code, but it basically tells you, you need to activate a pattern that's printed into the package, and you need to see the number 4 on the invisible screen that's embedded in that package, for example. You would do that and you would get a 4. Then you know that your package is really secure. Another way to do that, for example, like Diogo mentioned, is an NFC tag. So you would scan the NFC tag, get the information, but also power you would create the pattern. That pattern would trigger something that would create that number 4 in the display, given that you scan the NFC tag and power that display. So there's all sorts of ways to play with this architecture, or even to use it for other applications that are not mentioned here. So that was about security. Another project that we're involved in is about condition monitoring or connected condition monitoring. We're doing that in the framework of our activity, Smart Pack Technologies. The idea is, again, to make sure that the product is being monitored throughout the supply chain. So when we look at this fish, we would want to make sure that this fish is as fresh as promised at every step of the supply chain. For example, when it gets into the supermarket would want to know that the box that they're receiving then contains 50 packages of fish. All the fish in the box are at the freshness level that they paid for, and not at something at an inferior freshness level. Right now, you need to basically check one by one, or you need to do that visually, or you need to rely on some quality checks that are based on paper, for example. Embedding condition monitoring systems into the package that continuously monitor the quality of the fish throughout the supply chain would allow the supermarket to know if something happened along the way that affected the quality of the fish. Of course, we have applications that relate to smart pricing and food waste that follow that. So we are working on several aspects of embedding this technology. The first one is working on special paper that allows us to combine chemistry that is needed to monitor the condition of the product and electronics that are needed to communicate that to the outside world. All of that while considering that this type of paper needs to be in contact with food. So this is the first activity that we're working on. And of course, we're working on the chemistry and biology of sensing these changes and on the communication devices required to communicate that outside. Now, of course, all of these amazing features may create a huge disruption in the price of the package, because if you're building a Ferrari of electronics and chemistry on every product, you may make the price of that salmon considerably more expensive. So some of the concepts that we are working on in order to mediate the challenge of price is, the first one is working on printed chipless RFID tags. That means that we are working on printing RFID tags, taking the cost into the domain of printing QR codes. Now, that is not something that exists with us now, and we're not the only one in the world, of course, working on this technology. But we feel that our ecosystem puts us in a very good position to succeed in this task. So this is the first concept or the first approach to making the cost of these connected tags cheaper and affordable. The second approach that we are trying to apply is to remove the complexity from the package into stations along the supply chain. So maintaining on the product itself the most simple electronics and sensing elements, and removing the complexity into the stationary phases, like, for example, the shelves in a pharmacy or the shelves in a supermarket. So in a use case like that, the consumer will not interact with the product with his phone, for example, but he may interact with the shelf that is going to relay the information that is coming from the product. So again, we're removing complexity from the product to the infrastructure. To summarize, when we're looking at the connected or the future supply chain, it's similar in a way to what we have today and to what we've seen before. But instead of having discrete scans along the way, we're having continuous monitoring of the product along the supply chain. We always know where the product is, that it is authentic, and what is the condition of the product. And we also can realize events that happen in real time if something bad happened to the product. Now, this is significant for many use cases, but e-commerce was mentioned here more than once. And I think that when we consider e-commerce, we can't rely on the end consumer verifying the product when it gets to the consumer, because that may be too late. And also that involves a lot of returns and a logistic burden that is now very difficult for companies to cope with. So it's kind of imperative to be aware of these supply chain deviations or or infringements in a much earlier stage, where we could be alerted or indicated using physical sensors and data management systems that alert the brands or the shipping companies or the fulfillment companies of things that shouldn't be happening in the supply chain. We are getting the marketing and engagement that is already present today. We are getting an ever better supply chain visibility, increased brand protection, and also connected, condition monitoring in a continuous way, and circular economy data, because these connected packaging are going to basically keep their identity or their broadcast even when they go into the recycling stream. Just to leave you with a kind of a single use case of something like that, and maybe fresh vegetables that are in bulk is not the best example, but just as a concept, if we can know what is the actual freshness or what is the actual expiry date, like if Diogo had an example like that, we can use that, for example, for smart pricing. If you're making pasta tonight, maybe you don't care buying tomatoes that their expiry date is tonight, and you are willing to pay 50% for these tomatoes, and then you are saving money. The supermarket is making money on something that they would throw away tomorrow because the expiry date, would expire. And not to mention that a lot of the times, not for bulk vegetables because we see that with our eyes, but for other packaged products, expiry dates are determined arbitrarily and not really based on the actual condition of the product. So overall, this could serve the consumer, the retailer, and also the environment, preventing food waste and resources being spent for products that are eventually being thrown away to the garbage. So I hope I introduced you to some interesting concepts today. And again, thank you for listening.
Okay, Yanni, thank you very much. So pass the word to the audience. Please, if you have any questions to put to Yanni, any comments.
Thank you for your presentation. When you refer to the labels about the freshness of the products, I think you need to do much more things. You need to know, you need to sense the methylene, because the state of a product depends on the methylene that and when they are going. So this means that you have to have this type of sensor, because it's important. Otherwise, you don't know if it is fresh or not fresh. And then you have to communicate. So do you believe, and then of course you have to communicate to the supplier that you have to change this product, or you have to move. Even if I have a tomato that is deteriorating, if it is in the middle of the others, it will deteriorate all of them. So you have also this type of selection. Did you make any type of calculations? What could be the saves on the supermarkets? Because this is, at the end of the day, is how much money you can make it.
Well, I guess that's without going into the technology too much, and you're completely right. In terms of food waste, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the numbers for food waste are in billions of euros in damage every year from food waste. So having systems like this in place that can prevent even a part of that would make a significant difference in savings to different players, the retailers and other players in the supply chain. Again, not to mention the societal impact of preventing food waste. I hope that answered the question.
Any further question? Okay, if not, thank you, Yanni. I will just now close the session. So, and besides being also CTO of AlmaScience, I'm here today in my role of coordinator of the Materials Engineering College, South Region, from Ordem dos Engenheiros. And so my first word is for the team that have made possible today this event here at Ordem dos Engenheiros. And I would like to thank to Nidia and to Rita, especially because it was my interaction, but of course all the team that are also making the support here on the digital media that we have been using today. So thank you very much for your help. So I will not, of course, take much time just to wrap up here some of the ideas and the concepts. So we heard important concepts about how to improve the logistic chains, and to assure the safety and the authenticity of different products. We saw that this includes challenges with different solutions that could be implemented. We heard that one important point to consider is how to massify these technologies, because those are not available nowadays for all the products, as you may know. We know that when you go to a supermarket, many of these things do not exist nowadays. Not because the technology is not available, but because of the price at the end. So it's also a challenge to massify all this. And so it's not only important the technology that we use, but we also heard, and we clearly need to assume this, that we need to have a kind of cost-effective, but more than cost-effective, also a kind of function-effective selection when going for this technology. So we have different options to see which one fits the product. And this basically includes also what is nowadays known as eco-design. So eco-design is not only sustainability and recyclability, also to design a product that fits the need, and that then of course then also considers then all the aspects of sustainability. We also heard about the connection between the physical world and the digital world. It's indeed where the challenge is. People say that normally the challenge is in the interface, if everything is physical or if everything is digital. It's easy to make this type of products that communicate with two worlds. It's more challenging, of course. But linking to what I said before, it's also important to understand what information we need to collect, what information we need to transmit, and who will assess this information along the value chain. So maybe the consumer doesn't need to know all the information. Also, the retailer needs to assess information until a certain point. Maybe the producer wants to have information about the product since the farm to the fork. But then other issues also may appear, because if we create a smart packaging, a smart solution that start to gather information, to get information along the value chain, and if this information could be accessible to someone else, or could be, let's say, some informatic piracy, so you can enter in this information. So you are collecting information that is sensible, and we have privacy problems that could also arise, because we heard some concepts knowing about, okay, this guy took the bottle to Brazil and then he drinks in Nicaragua, so it starts to become important challenges also that need to be addressed. So basically this fits in my first comment, that is, okay, function effective and cost effective solutions that fits the need for this product. And to finalize, just to say, of course, we understand this is a kind of multidisciplinary challenge, where you could find topics like electronics, like computer science, because we talk about data science, we talk about ICT, and of course about materials that make all this possible, but other like environmental science as well. So it's really, and I saw this in the presentation of Guneri, it's like engineering creativity. That was the prize that you mentioned, that indeed is what we need. So it's the creativity from the engineers that are working and developing these technologies. So, and to finalize, this means that this makes sense to have these discussions, of course, in the House of Engineers in Portugal here. And so that was a pleasure to have you here today. And thank you very much for being present. And I wish you a good day and a nice week. Okay, thank you very much.
It runs through all the other offices. Yeah. We can back home, right? Yeah, a lot of money on business. So basically, last